he was out moving around fine. And it's just a couple of things he wasn't 100% sure that could drive at 100%, so that was it.
And Scanlon?
Yeah, he'll be a game time, but he's not feeling great. Right, so we have had this. It's probably 2 months. Everybody gets it once or twice. So I think he's on his second time through with this one.
And looking at, before we get into with Stenlund being out, getting Lawrence and Lockwood in. It's been a long time for Lockwood, and it's 5 games and 20 for Lawrence.
Right, and we're coming into 3-4 game weeks in the next 5 weeks after we clear through February. So we're going to go into a really heavy schedule. 4 of them, one of that is on the road, and they're all divisional games, which means you're going to get banged up. So we're going to need all these guys in a bit of a rhythm because we're going to need our whole lineup.
And for some of those guys, it stinks not being able to play, not being part of it, and we're feeling that way. How have these guys been attitude-wise and all that stuff?
So good. You're right, George. When you get into a long stretch, most times you'll get a guy to come in and say, hey, maybe it's time I moved on. And these guys are real clear about we want to be here, we want to play here. We've had a really nice little run of health, right? And from last year, it's highly unusual that these guys would sit out. I'm not a huge fan of rotating people in and out of the line. It's very difficult to go to a guy. Even if he had a tough night, if he's played 7 really good games for you and he has a tough night, that's not the time to pull him out. That's the time to show some faith in him and keep him in. So I don't like to rotate guys in and out, which means if your team stays healthy, guys sit for a while. And the rules say that we can't send them down very often to play in the American League to stay sharp. So they go through this, but I'm really pleased with the team performance guys maybe more than anything else, but also some names that you don't hear. Max Ivanov, who's our skills coach, Robbie Talis, who works with the goaltenders, and Tuomo Ruutu, and then all of the guys on Chris McCullen's staff, team performance guys, push these guys hard and keep them ready. So we've been very pleased with the guys who sat out a long term. And you think of Josh Mahura's last game, that's pretty darn good to be able to come in and play that well on that. Because we're not you don't practice much in the NHL either. It's not like they can stay sharp in practice. They've got to go out and find ways to stay sharp, and they have.
Coach, playing a playoff style of hockey since day one. What do you like most about the game that your team is building for the playoffs?
I think the acceptance of it, it's not easy. Look, I really liked our game in Carolina because it had a bit of that feel. It wasn't quite as physical. I know there were a lot of hits on the stats at the end. It wasn't really that heavy a game, but it was an intense game and it was a fast game, and both teams came to play. So that was fun. We've had way more fun games. I know I get texts from friends, or I can just tell standing behind the bench, is this a fun game? The Tampa game, you get a lot of, oh my God, that game was unbelievable, except it was just not much fun. And it was just, Tampa played hard, we played hard. They just get every bad break you can. Everybody gets one of those a year. But last night's game, even in a loss, it was fun to be a part of because the guys played hard and it was intense. And our team is not looking for an easier way to do it. That's what I meant. I don't have to go in every game and say, hey, we can't do this. We can't play this game because we won't be able to play this game in 6 weeks or 7 weeks. We got to get it right. So, they've been really good about playing hard.
Coach, we've talked, all season long about how this has been one of the best defensive teams in the league, and the absolute buy-in from not just the blue liners, but the forwards as well. Is this collectively one of the best team defenses you've had as a coach?
Right. We had a real powerful team about 5 or 6 years, real powerful blue line when Connor Hellebuck just kind of became into his greatness, and that was a good team. The outline of the defensive game isn't made great by the coaches. It's not some super defensive scheme. What it is they won't cheat on each other. That's all. They're going to go out there. Like the hard things you got to do for our defensemen first to go back and get the puck. That's no fun. A lot of nights won't be fun tonight when Wilson's coming. So they've got some big, heavy guys, but they'll do it. And then the next part is the forward will be 5 feet away from him, not 50 feet away from him. And those are the little things they'll do for each other to make the puck. It's the mistakes. It's what kind of position are you in when the mistake, and it's not the life in an NHL game is the puck bounces. The puck doesn't go tape to tape. There's a mistake. It's just a bad event happens when you're trying to do the right thing. It's off a shin pad. It's off the boards. You get hit just before you move the puck. Where's your hockey team in that moment? And if they're 50 feet apart from each other, you got no chance of surviving it. So in the change of possession, in that gray area time, our team's in a pretty good spot for each other because they support each other. They hang out with each other. So it's kind of like they're a good defensive team because they like hanging out with each other. That's our. There you go. There's our systems.
And, sorry,
I'm good.
going back to Tkachuk, you say he could go, I'm sure, if you had to, if this was.
He's
game
playing in the
3.
playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But how good does it feel to know that he's just day to day, and because that could kind of look like it could be something.
Well,
something
everybody,
a lot
right?
worse.
Every time one of your guys leaves or goes to the room, it could be anything, right? You've seen guys skate off the ice under their own power, and it's 6 months, right? He tore his rotator cuff, or they bring the stretcher out and the guy's back the next game. So you have no idea how bad a guy's hurt when it first happens, and you just got your fingers crossed. And you know what? I feel the same way about the other team. Like, we're not looking for an advantage. You like everybody to just stay healthy, put your best team on the ice, and let's go. So we're lucky. We had 2 guys that are really important to our team. They couldn't finish the game, but we were, in a different set of circumstances. We probably have both on the ice.
Yeah, and Forsling, I assume, was a precaution at the time.
Yeah, you just need to get things looked at. And then once the doctors kind of weigh in and say this is good, he's ready to go. And he wouldn't be he's treated exactly the same way as Matthew, as is any other player. If there was something in his game that he didn't think he could accomplish tonight because of what he was dealing with, he wouldn't be in the lineup. He feels good.
And for Tuesday, would you anticipate Tkachuk back Tuesday?
If we straight line the trend of how he's getting better, the answer would be yes. But we can't predict that line. But if he continues to kind of improve the way he improved over 24 hours, we expect him to probably play tomorrow.
Goaltender tonight?
Anthony's playing tonight.
Looking at Gustav, obviously there's so many things good, but the one kind of stat he owns in the NHL for a while now is plus minus. He's tops the league. Ever since he's been here, he's been one of the top guys. And usually, it's not a be-all, end-all stat, but when a guy is such an outlier and has such an extreme plus minus, how do you look at that?
Well, I think when the plus minus stat first comes out, everybody really loves it. It's a great idea. And then they start to realize this is a team game. So you can't tell some things. And then not every plus is paid for equally. And it's also not done alone. That was a bunch of BS, wasn't it? Gustav Forsling is plus 39?
Yep.
Okay. So I know that stat, which is unusual because I don't know most of those stats, but it means something. He's also directly tied to Barkov and Reinhardt because we run those lines against the other team's best an awful lot. Okay, but we also run those lines against the other team's best. So maybe that stat does mean something. When you put it in context of who they play against, who they play with, and over a big enough sample size, then the individual play doesn't matter. But over time, if you're on the ice for more good than bad, then it's going to show up in that stat. It may not be directly related to you, but it's certainly indirectly related to you